This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at ease.com, California's top one-stop website for legal marijuana delivery, as well as an option for the same for folks living in the Portland, Oregon area. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, September 24th, 2019, and you're tuned in to episode 804 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Dan Adams over at the Boston Globe kicks off our news day with coverage of a meeting held last night by the Cambridge, Massachusetts City Council, where a vote was held barring non-social equity program participants from opening up adult use dispensaries within the city, located just over the river from downtown Boston. The vote was unanimous at 7-0 with 2 abstentions and blocks non-equity participants from owning adult use shops, including a number of medical dispensaries that are already located in Cambridge, which are expected to sue over the vote. The exclusion will run for 2 years, after which time companies owned by women, minorities, and low-income local residents will be considered. There's a lot of background and deeper context on this one, which Dan nicely covers in his Boston Globe piece. Swing over for the full read. Yesterday, 21 state attorneys general sent a letter to congressional leaders urging them to pass the Safe Banking Act, a piece of proposed legislation set to go before the full House of Representatives tomorrow for a vote that would free banks and financial institutions to work with state legal cannabis businesses. The 21 attorneys general point out in their letter that making legal cannabis banking legal would reduce crime by mostly taking cash out of the cannabis equation and bringing more transparency to financial transactions. Kyle Yeager over Marijuana Moments has the full letter, which you can open up for yourself to see if your state's attorney general signed on. I was happy to see Maine represented. Nice work, Aaron Fry. Our final top story today is an op-ed written by Steve Hawkins, the executive director of the Marijuana Policy Project, calling for the passage of the aforementioned Safe Banking Act, which has been criticized in recent days by a number of activists and politicians for not being progressive enough in terms of social equity. As I reported on yesterday, that now includes 4 prominent Democratic senators, including 3 presidential candidates. But as Steve editorializes in his must-read piece, lifting the block on banks from working with state legal marijuana will greatly increase the access to capital for minority entrepreneurs, who cite that as a major block on getting involved in the industry, given that it can cost $1 million or $2 million to open up a dispensary. This is a big week for marijuana banking any way you cut it. Give this one a read. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, ease.com, California's top one-stop website for legal marijuana delivery, as well as the same for folks living in the Portland, Oregon area. Open up ease.com/home to find a great article written by the Ease editorial team highlighting some of the legal cannabis products found on ease.com that customers have found helpful in making them feel better after a night of too much drinking. There aren't many things more miserable than a terrible booze hangover, and marijuana has long been known to blunt, so to speak, some of the worst effects from having one too many drinks the night before. From the PAX Era Cannatonic to the G-Pen Geo Strawberry Mint CBD Pod, this list has some great suggestions for helping you recover your day. And if you're feeling bright and sharp and top of your game already today, then you can find lots of other legal marijuana products over at ease.com. One more time, that's ease.com, spelled E-A-Z-E. And don't forget, for professionally curated hemp-derived CBD products by mail, there's easewellness.com. All right, time for the Blitz. A campaign to legalize psychedelic mushrooms in Oregon just launched on Friday and received a $150,000 contribution to help kick things off from the Dr. Bronner's Soap Company, which has a reputation in progressive circles for funding drug reform activism. The Oregon Psilocybin Society will gather signatures of support to place a ballot measure in next year's elections to legalize the medical use of psychedelic mushrooms. In order to land on the ballots, a total of 112,200 valid signatures must be gathered by July. UK-based drug maker GW Pharmaceuticals announced yesterday that it has been granted permission to market its FDA-approved marijuana-derived CBD drug Epidiolex by the European Commission, which is necessary to sell legal drugs in the European Union. Epidiolex is used to treat certain rare forms of epilepsy. Marijuana Business Daily's chart of the week tracks the slow build of the number of registered medical marijuana patients in the country of Australia, which is getting a medical marijuana program up and running. Since last September, when registration approvals began, just over 13,000 patients have been registered in all. Pop over to Matt Lamer's story on this one for more here. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission Chair Steve Hoffman just gave an interview to Mass Live where he talked about the challenges of implementing social equity programs. Hoffman touched on the difficulties seen by social equity program participants in getting access to capital, a theme we touched on a bit in an earlier story here today. This is another good one to read in full yourself. A new study just published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, finds that twice as many surveyed regular marijuana users say they consume cannabis for medical reasons rather than adult use purposes. The numbers land at 46% medical versus 22% adult use, which I think makes some amount of sense. It also speaks volumes about potential markets. Former NFL football player Calvin Johnson, who retired from the sport at the age of 30 because he was tired of being run over by a truck every week for a living, just gave an interview to Sports Illustrated in which he talked about his use of cannabis, which he consumed medicinally to recover after game days. Johnson said he saw marijuana as a sensible alternative to the more widely used opioids that most football players survive on. And finally for today, a state district court judge in New Mexico ordered the state to allow non-residents to become registered medical marijuana patients. We've tracked this storyline as it's developed, with Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham opposing non-New Mexico residents getting medical cards and her administration stonewalling attempts to force the issuance of the cards. Even following yesterday's ruling, the governor's office said it would further appeal and in the meantime would not grant out-of-state cards. So we'll be back on this one sometime soon. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Ease, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.